In this video, we're going to focus on how we can use our local storage, where we have, for example, here we have selected a value, for example, Tuesday, but if I reset this, then I can select any other item. But of course, I want to reset this again to go back to the original state or to any other item here that we selected. It's like a poll option that we're going to use. We're going to use the local host for that. So let's start to explore how to do this. So let's explore how we can use the local storage interaction in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need to do here is we need to go to the chartjs3.com and getting started, the specific link here, because we need to get our default code. So I'm going to copy this chunk of code here. Copy that, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here. So then I'm going to just paste that in there, and once I did that, I'm going to cut out this title, put it in there. So now we have this. Let's save this now and refresh. There we are. So let's continue on. So what we're going to do here is basically like a poll structure. So we're going to give it a radio button here where you can select the values. So let's start and do that immediately. Let's go in here. So what I want to do here is basically a few items. I'm going to put an enter in here, and then I'm going to create a div class, and this div class will be what I call the poll box, and basically it will contain the radio input buttons. So what I'm going to put in here is an input type radio button, and this will be a radio, and then the name here could be, well, what would be the name? Maybe the day that is our selection here. So once we have this here, what we also need to indicate here is the value. And, well, let's put in here value. That is a blank one. The first one will be blank. And then anything else will be one of these options. So I'm going to just put in here a few options. What I will do is just 3 options will be fine. So I say here Monday, Tuesday, and finally Wednesday. And what I do need here is to activate. So once we change the selection, at that very moment we want to trigger a function. So we say here on change, and this function will be called the set poll value, or basically set poll. And then for that we're going to select this. This here indicates basically the item we want to grab. So this would be the entire input here. And you might say, well, do we really need on this one here to save this? Well, I guess that basically, or at least the first one is not really necessary to have, but the other 3 are a selection that we want to store this information. So once we did this, we have this. The very next thing what I want to do here then is another div. And in this div, well, I'll just keep it like a simple div here. But within here, I will have a paragraph with the basically the text. So this could be a class of label or text or selection. And next I want to have a button here, and this button will be eventually the on click button. So when we click on that, we want to reset. So what we will call here the reset poll or clear poll. Maybe clear poll is fine for this. Let me say here reset. So now we have this. If I save that, we should have here a few options. Alright, I do realize that none. We need to put in here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Save that, refresh. There we are. So now we have it, and once we select this, you will see that we get here immediately in the console log a response. Of course, the response right now is nothing. So we're going to start working on this. So to do this, what I want to do here now is our first basic response. Because what we really want to do, we want to save the user's input. We want to save that on the computer of the user. Because we're using JavaScript in this case. So you might say, what will you do if you have a user that is registered? For example, you have a website, the customer needs to log in or the user needs to log in, and then select. At that very moment, it will be recorded based on the user that has been registered. But if the user is not being registered, we need to work basically with a local host or maybe a cookie or something like that. So what I want to do here is we want to store the value there on his computer So that would mean that if you use another computer again to visit to this site, you would have another option to put in a poll. But that's alright. In this case, I would assume that's a tiny margin of error, so that's quite acceptable for now. Of course, if you're going to go very deep, let the user be registered, or maybe use a pixel like Facebook or something like that. You can go more advanced on that. However, just focus on the basics. So we're going to focus here. I'm going to say here, first of all, set poll. And the set poll will have a parameter of day. The parameter of day is basically this value. That's this one here. So what does this value do? This is a very powerful feature. So let's put in there. Let's remove this and do a console log and just show you day. If I save this now, refresh, and now if I select here, what happens, it will save, and what it saves is the entire input instead of only the value. So what I want to do now is I want to extract only the value. So I tell you dot value, save this, refresh, and there we are. So now we only get the value, and this is all beautiful. And if you are here on this one does absolutely nothing. Beautiful. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure, and this is the reason why I'm going to use many different functions. I'm just doing this so it's very clear. It's easy breakdown. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say local storage, and here we say dot set items, capital I, and then here we need to put in two values. First one would be basically the value that is stored in the local storage. So what is the name we give this? In this case, I will just say selected day. It's a string value, comma, and then what is the value we want to store with the selected day is basically this, day.value. So the selected day later on can be extracted, and with that we can refer to selected day from then on. So now we have this, and then the next thing what I want to do, of course, if you have a selection, I want this now to start do something, or basically move to a new function where we start to update based on whatever we have selected. So what I'm going to create here now is an update function. We call it an update poll. So I'm going to just make this function, put it in there here, and here let's put in some enters here below. I like to work in the center, that's a bit more comfortable for me. Here we're going to say function update poll. So this really does the following. It says like we're going to set something, and then we're going to trigger now a new function here. And just to make sure, I'm going to just do a console log, say this is update poll. Save this, refresh, select something. Alright, local storage is not defined, fair enough. So we're going to check here what is the local storage, and I guess I'm using here the caps lock. That's not allowed, it should be small letter for the L, but the S must be capitalized. Refresh, do this again. There you are. This is an update poll. So now it recognizes this. And what happens as well, it has stored now the selection. Because if I refresh, well, let's do this now. Let's start to extract or get the item of selected day. That's going to extract whatever we selected. And it's being stored basically on the computer itself, on the local storage of the computer. So what I'm going to say here is the following. We can do here maybe a console log, and then we just say here local storage is capital S dot get item, and then here which one are we getting? The selected day. So the reason why we need to indicate this, imagine you have another one here that would say not selected day but selected color, for example, it will be different values. So this is just like a constant in essence that we just extract, or almost like a database. So if I save this now and refresh, you can see here, alright, I realize, of course, here the update poll, we need to just trigger this one, because here if we set it, it will instantly trigger, but it's undesirable because it will change. But if I do this, this will trigger this one here. Just to make sure, I'll comment out this, save that, refresh, and you can see here, we have selected Tuesday. And if I do this now, I do Wednesday here now, and if I refresh, it is basically gone here, but it understands we have selected Wednesday previously, so it's being stored on the computer. So now we have this, and we can now start to play around with this. And this is a quite tricky topic, by the way. And I'm almost certain that what we have here could be even more efficiently coded, but it's just to be very clear in every step. want to process. So now, what we're going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, well, what I can do here just for now is here constant equals item equals this. The reason I'm doing that, so it's a shorthand here, now I can just grab this item here. So what I want to do next is basically this. I want to figure out what is our position here, because for example, we have here Wednesday. Then I want to get the index here, because if we have Wednesday selected, we must do a +1 on Wednesday. So we're going to use the index number, and then we're going to search for the index of these labels here. So what I'm going to do now, and this is why I'm going to use this here now, is the following. I'm going to say here data, and then we're going to say here, let's grab that, data dot, let's see here, data dot labels. So we have this one here, and then in here I'm going to say dot index of, and the index of will be the item. So once I do this, we can do a console log here. What we're really doing is the following. We want to say, can you search in our array in what position is Wednesday? And it should be number 2, because this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I save this now, and I'm going to remove this update all, save that, refresh, select one, there we are, select this, there we are, and select that, there we are, and if I select this, nothing happens. Beautiful. So you can see here now, this is all correct. So now we have the matching values here. We could even expand this to all of them, but I'll do that later on. So we have this here, and this is very important. So we have here what I would call here the index. So let's say here index equals this item here. So now I have that. What I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here a copy of our array here. I want to make a copy of this, and the reason I want to make a copy of this, or well, we don't even have to make a real copy of that. What I'm going to do is just going to say copy this. And then here I say constant, because I want to have the original here, but I don't want to update the original. This is extremely important. If you update the original data and then you reset it, what happens is your data is basically contaminated. Maybe not really the right term, but it has been updated and you cannot retrieve the original data anymore. So it is being affected and you cannot go back to reset or to default mode. So that's why here, let's say here, days, well, what you can say, days poll. So I'm just going to grab this here. So we're going to make this here reference, but I want to grab here this specific one instead of this. I don't want to touch this one. So then what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here constant, or we have to go here to data, or more specifically it could be here for my chart dot config dot data, and the reason why is I go here for my chart config data, and then here from data I go to data sets index 0, and then I will grab here data set 0 dot data. Alright, so what I want to do here is the following. I have this and I want to make a copy of this data. Oh well, sorry, we don't even have to do a copy of this data. But what I want to do here is the following. I want to say this here will be that, and then what we need to do here is the following. Let's see, dot data equals copy. Do we need a copy data? No. But what we do need, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what we need to do here now, we have this index number here. And I need to grab now here the right index of this one before I even update this. So I'm going to say put in here, then I'll say index here of this item. The reason why I'm doing this is basically because I want to update whatever we have selected. So if we selected Wednesday, Wednesday would be yellow, index number 2, and then what I want to do here will be equal to this plus 1. And this would mean that basically the value will be added plus 1. So then we have this. What I'm going to do next is the following. So then, let's see, here we have that. I would say here, I guess we can just do an update first and see our response on this. If I save that, refresh, select this, alright, and then if I move here, you can see here now, it keeps on updating. Of course, we don't want this, and if we go here, it doesn't do anything. So we need to reset. Well, let's do the reset button, and then after we need to make sure that this here is being avoided. So what are we going to do here is basically the next one. I guess this is already done. So what I'm going to do here is, well, first of all, I want to indicate, I want to block this input here. Why? Once we selected it, we want to tell the user, thank you very much for your selection. You have selected Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, etc., etc. So what I want to do here then, basically this needs to be hidden. So that would mean the following. I want to have here, let's see, we're going to do here, I guess you could say this selected poll. So I'm going to say, alright, let's go to the next function, which is the selected poll, and the selected poll will do two things. It will update immediately, but also it will update if we already have something already stored in. So that has two functions here. So to do this, what I need to do here is to make sure, first of all, to check, have we selected anything, maybe not now, but previously when we were on the website. So is there anything on our local host? That's basically the question. So how to do this? We're going to create an if statement. This if statement here will say basically this specific one, but not in this, but we're going to say here local, or I guess here local storage. Did I say, I think I just said local host, but sorry, local storage. And we say here dot length. So if local storage dot length would be bigger than 0, meaning that there is a selection, which is a string value, of course. In that case, what I want to do is the following. I want to grab here now this label here and just give this a text and just say we have selected ABC. And then what I want to do as well here, the poll box needs to be hidden. Well, let's grab this poll box and just hide this for now. So we're going to say in here, and we say here document dot get element. Oh, sorry, we can do here, not even dot element, we can say here selector, query selector, that's the one, query selector. And then what is the query selector? So query means basically search, and selector would be basically the div or the element that we're looking for. So we're looking for an element with the class name, that's why you have a dot, poll box. And then what we will say here, we're going to indicate a style, and this style will be a display of display none. That's it. I'm just going to hide that. So if I save this, refresh, alright, so we select this, there we are. And we have this here, alright, so this still works here. It has been stored in local storage, but of course it doesn't recognize yet. So we still need to run through that. So the next thing what we need to do here is the following. I want to indicate here then in the label, it's a document query selector, let's see, where's the label? That's this one, your class label. And all I want to say here is, well, this one now could be stated the following. I'll say inner text. So you have inner text, and you have a text content, and you have inner HTML. I'm going to warn you, do not use inner HTML unless you absolutely need it, but it's quite risky. It's sensitive because it creates a risk. So that's why don't use that one. So what we're going to do is inner text, or if I'm not mistaken, there's a text content or content text, one or the other. That's for Firefox, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, this one is very common. And just say here the following. We're going to say here the following. And what is our text here? We'll say you have selected. And then here concatenate plus. What I want to do here is basically get the local storage. So I say here, or we can even get this one. Get this. So if I save this and make sure we have selected, I guess here, colon space, just select space here. If I save this now, refresh, select, you have selected Monday. Alright, beautiful. So now we have that one, and that is fine. So the next thing what I want to do here is else. So if the length is equal to 0 or less, or basically there's no value, in that case what I want to do here is I want to hide this label. So I'm going to say here this label, and we just say here style display none. No need to show it, of course. And next what I want to do as well is well, what we can do here is the poll box. That one should be display block. And then if I hide this one here, the label, we probably need to set this here as well on showing as well, or else it's gonna work. So we say display inline. The reason why inline here, because it's a paragraph here. So I'll save that, refresh. So we have this here, and then we have here this Monday reset. Alright, clear poll still needs to be done. So now we have that one, we have this. The next thing what I want to do here, well, what we could do here, even check to activate this. So if I save this here, what will happen if I save this, if I refresh, you can see it already recognizes that we have selected something. So if I would do here now, the clear it, so let's clear up, we'll create a function, and this will be called the clear poll function. And the clear poll function basically does the following. Well, when we select this button here, we reset the values. So what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to say here, first of all, local storage dot clear. Basically, we clear the value. That's number one. And once we did this, what I want to do as well is I want to make sure that this here is again back in action. So what I can do here, maybe that would be just easy, is just to say here, select a poll, just to trigger out that one here. So if I save this now, we have the selected poll here as well. So if I refresh, alright, reset, there we are, select something, there we are, go back, and then we select another one, there we are, go back, go here, refresh. You can see here something happens here, and this is what I don't like, is that the Monday has been pre-selected because of the memory. Although the memory has been removed, but it's still shown here. So what I want to do is that this should be automatically on none once we click on reset. That would make sense. So what we can do here is just this, very simple. I'm going to do here, and what I'm going to say here is the following. I'm going to use here a feature called document dot query selector all, and what that really does is it's going to grab every selector with the same name. And what's the name here on our item? The name, we have no class here, I realize. So what I want to do here, just give a simple class. We could do here class and just say poll, and only for this one, that is allowed. But what I want to do is just every one of them. So in case you want to do something fancy as well, you can still pinpoint them. And I'm just going to show you how you use query selector all. So let's copy this. And then what we're going to say here is a string value, a class value as well. It's a string, but a class poll. What this really does is it will grab everyone with the poll value. But what I want here is only the index 0. So it will basically see it as an array here, but it's not an array. What it really is a text node, or sorry, it's a node. It's a node, and a node is more deeper than an array because it will have everything related to the input or to the item or the element. So it's more deeper, and but it doesn't matter so much. What we really want to focus on is this is basically node index 0, node index 1, index 2, index 3. And that's what I want. I want to grab here node index 0, and then I will say here the following. I'll say dot checked equals true. Doing this, now I save this and refresh. If I select here Monday, then reset, we go back here to none. Alright, So now you can see here what we still need to fix is the jumping of the value, because we want to reset the value. This is why I didn't want to adjust the original data here. Secondly, you're also not allowed to put this original data in the local storage. And the reason why, if you put in local storage, you don't have the original data. Normally you get the data and then you store that on your database or somewhere based on the selection. And what you only need to know is if a person has selected a choice, you must undo whatever that selected choice is and then recalculate the new selected choice, which makes sense, because if you would do this on a local host, it would mean that on my computer it is being shown nicely, but on someone else's computer it is shown without my selection. So this is very important. Never use localhost with your array, or else you will have wrong data. So we have this day poll here, and I guess we can just grab that one. What I want to do here, else if this, alright, clear the storage, and then probably what we could do here when we clear, we could update the chart. We should update it probably in here. That would make the most sense. Let's go back here, and then I'm going to say here, update this, copy that, and then I'll say here as well, this, before we even update, I want to say here, not even the index, I'll say data equals, let's see, is it poll data or days poll? There we are, the days poll, semicolon here, save that, refresh. So now if I reset, alright, we grab this, and reset, we grab that, reset, does it work? Alright, so I realize it doesn't work here, so we have a tiny issue here. Fair enough, so I'm going to check here what we can do. So let's look how we can just quickly solve this one. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to duplicate basically this array. I guess that was, I was talking about the copying array, I had it in my mind. But I guess somehow I messed it up because I had it not clear in my mind. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to duplicate this array. So how do we do this? Let's create a constant copy days poll. Days poll equal, I'm going to say here, and then what I want to do here, bracket, triple dot, and this is what we call a rest operator, and then we put in here the item. What really happens now is we duplicate this days poll here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, put it in there. There we are. And now we have our copy here, and all what we need to do now is just to play around. We can always grab the original here without contaminating it. So I'm going to say this days poll, or this should work now. Let's see. Alright, reset. Then I do again Monday, reset, there you are. Reset, reset, and reset. Does it work? I have a feeling it is not working accordingly. So let's see here. So probably we need to look here down. We're going to grab here the days poll. And let's see here. We're going to update. Alright, we have this here. And what I want to do here, of course, is to just copy here the copy days poll. This copy days poll is basically the item I want to copy here. So I'm just going to say here, this will be equal to, oh sorry, no, we have this index here, and then I'm going to copy here this. So what I'm really doing is here I'm going to say, alright, I have this new index, this copy days for index plus 1. That will be the new updated one for the chart. So if I save this, I should expect now a correct response here. Reset and reset. Alright, it does something, but not 100%. Let me check. Alright, so after quick checking, I realized the mistake or what I was missing. So what we did here, we have this one here. We only updated the single item here. I don't want this. Or I want to update this, but what was missing is the complete update. What I want to do is I want to make sure I have an update complete so that we can later on reset it correctly. So what happens is I'm going to grab this here, dot data, and this data equals basically the copy days poll. So once we have this has been updated with the item, and then we update the fully amount here. So if I save this and refresh, now we have this option here. So you can see here, this now was 19, it was 18, and we selected Monday. If I refresh here, now we go back to 18, and if I say Tuesday now, Tuesday, I have a feeling Tuesday didn't change. Alright. Interesting. Alright, so let me just check. I have no idea what's going on. Alright, so I figured out what it is, and it gives me a real, well, I guess, real challenge, even for me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the easiest way. I'm going to just copy this one here. I want to make sure that this here is being used here down. And then later on, I have to really fine-tune this eventually, but that's alright for now. I want to just make sure that this works. And I'll probably make a second part where we can just fine-tune this nicely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put this in here because this is giving me a real struggle. And what happens is basically is counting each other. It keeps on counting, and that's why we get the response here. As you can see here, if I reset this, it keeps on counting up. And what I need to do here basically is to reset the original value here. So just to make it simple, I'm going to say, let's see here, this. I'll just put it in there. So we're going to reset this, and then we do plus whatever would be the index on it. And then I don't want to do here plus that. I guess we can just say here, the day poll will be in here. Do we want to plus the day poll? No, I want to just plus the index here. So all I'm going to say here, this will be that one here. So what I'm really doing is the following. So let me explain so we have understanding. First of all, I want to reset this data on the calculator based on this original data. And then I want to plus the item itself. So then the specific index. So the index would be whatever we have selected here. If we choose Monday, it should be plus 18 will be 19. But I always want to make sure that this is the base that we're using. So if I save this now, we'll refresh and then we reset this. Alright, select Monday. There we are, reset Monday. You can see here now it maintains nicely on 19. Let's move here to 12. Tuesday, there we are. Now 18 is back on reset. There we are. And that is basically how we can do it. So we reset this one again. There we are. So this works, and this was real tricky even for me. However, with this you can play around with it. Of course, I highly recommend you to study this slightly more deeper. I also have to study this more in depth, but this is one of the options. So if you want to learn a bit more about localhost, maybe with arrays, because arrays work slightly different in localhost, I'm going to recommend you this specific video here about how to use localhost in Chartjs. Oh, sorry, localhost. I'm talking about localhost, but I'm referring to local storage. How to use the local storage in Chartjs here with an array, because that's slightly different.